It seems these days, most games are spelt with a silent sandbox somewhere in the title. It's become the mechanic du jour and pops up in franchises that simply don't need it. So when one of the old guards sidles up to the bar with a new offering, they really have to make it count. A concept Bethesda seems to have kept in mind whilst making the newest entry in their post-apocalyptic pack rat simulator, Fallout 4, or the Tumblrite's wet dream. We get it, you've planned for an apocalypse, and as long as there's still a need to scream about social justice issues, I'm sure you'll be in demand, but I've lost what I was doing already. Which is fittingly reflective of my experience in Fallout so far. I've had a little over a week with it at the time of writing this, and I can tell you I've barely touched the quest tab, let alone the main story narrative. Anytime I set off to do something, I see that flirtatious little blip pop up on my compass, and suddenly realise that the undiscovered scrapyard of the next hill will answer all of my problems. As long as my problems involve a surplus of ammo and not enough dead raiders. Now for me, that is exactly how a sandbox game should be, and the franchise couldn't work any other way. Not like your Metal Gear Solid 5's with its uncertain stumble out of the linear gameplay cupboard, or for all of its good points, GTA 5. Fun, but with ultimately nothing to do, like the buildings are so much cardboard set dressing. Even Mad Max missed the mark, which as a sandbox post-apocalyptic action game was less missing the mark and more missing the broadside of a barn, and nuking the farmhouse, and forgetting the barn was made of lead, and buried 30 feet down. 2 times over. I love the sense of wonder while I'm exploring the wasteland. A lot of people complained when they saw how much smaller the map was going to be compared to previous games, but when it's so densely packed with things to do, it's not an issue. Towns have abandoned buildings to explore, a lot of them with larger interior spaces to really get your scavenge on. There always seems to be some mysterious structure on the horizon, and you can't throw a stone without hitting some abhorrent creature that has one thing on his to-do list, and it involves your shit and the pushing in thereof. It's often argued that the trade-off of a true sandbox game is that it hampers narrative, as the story only develops as much as the player dictates, and after all, Dr. Impromptu Cosmetic Shotgun Surgery III is unlikely to uncover much about his lost son, if every time he hears the pitter-patter of raider boots he flies off to give a practical demonstration of how he got his doctorate. But in such a richly detailed game world, if you're given free rein to make your own character with your own skills, it doesn't matter. I find myself wanting to make choices but realising it's against my character's nature. You give them backstories without knowing it. Customization has reached new heights with the addition of crafting and settlement building, but in a game that's so good at world building, settlement building is a bit of a problem. Precious little is ever explained, and several times settlers have asked for something to be built, and I didn't have the first clue where to start. Yes, I know Sturges, raiders are invading, I know you want some defences, well I want to figure out how to get this light powered up so it looks like we're both shit out of luck, doesn't it? Along with sandbox, crafting is another aspect that seems to be shoehorned into games regardless of necessity these days, but in a world where everything is fucked and junk is everywhere, salvaging crap and using it to build new parts for your guns and armour makes sense. Faces and character models are better this time around as well. There's the odd bit of AV lag, but it's no longer like you're holding court with Dumplar, King of the Pudding Men whenever you have to talk to an NPC. The conversations themselves are getting better as well, with interactive cutscenes going on rather than the horrible death stare you used to get while mutely poking at a dialogue option. Now, the weather tries to kill you on a constant basis, with radstorms coming in to really fuck up your day. And other small gameplay tweaks and additions have been popped in this time around just to make things seem that little bit more real and immersive. Although how real you'd really want something when every third person you meet has their skin falling off like a badly microwaved pie, I'm not entirely certain. Now, as I've said, I haven't played the story much, so I can't comment on it. Although there are cryogenics and a missing child involved, so I think I can take a stab in the dark at the kid popping up older than you before too long. Although it's not so much a stab in the dark as a fondle in a gloomy trope-laden corner. Being a Bethesda title, there are expectedly some issues. Crashes occur every now and then, glitches, bugs, physics objects deciding gravity just isn't for them. But in comparison to New Vegas, where opening a door was running the gauntlet of making the system lock up and die, things are remarkably stable. Although, this day and age, remarkably stable isn't really what we should be shooting at, and admittedly I will let a lot slide when it comes to Bethesda, and there are some little problems that would probably kill a game by anyone else for me. But this is a critique after all, so let's make like a murderous parachute salesman and pick some fucking holes. Explosive damage is all over the place, killing me instantly but merely tickling the enemy. VATS, or Vault-Tec Assisted Targeting System for the uninitiated, is shittier than ever. Being point blank with an enemy, having a 95% chance of hitting them, usually ends up in mildly inconveniencing a nearby wall. Other times I'll be closer to an enemy than I have a right to without buying them dinner first, and apparently have zero chance of hitting them. Power armor has been revamped, and now you need an exoskeleton and a fuel source to use it, whereas before you could just pick up the bits and pieces, which I guess in itself is interesting. However, I seem to find them so regularly they may as well be snow globes saying, "I visited random crash truck number 387. Although, collectible snow globes were a thing in Fallout before, so maybe that's what they were driving at. From a critical standpoint, the shooting and combat kind of leaves things a lot to be desired, but for a piece of escapism, which is what it really is, and what games should be, I think it is amazing. Despite the flaws, it draws me in, and the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Which is good, as looking at the amount of Fallout games there actually are, sums obviously aren't Bethesda's strong point.